What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, retired, legendary, iconic, Hall of Fame superstar boxer who finished his career being a two-division world champion, undisputed, the first undisputed four major sanctioned belt holder in the history of the sport of boxing at middleweight, two-division world champion, superstar, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins, 55 wins, 8 losses, 2 draws, 32 wins by way of knockout. Bernard Hopkins was knocked out one time in his career. Bernard Hopkins, he stated on a recent post via his social media, in reference to the biggest fight currently in the sport of boxing today, between undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the number one best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, in Terence Crawford, with a record of 39 wins, no loss, no draw, 30 big wins by way of knockout, 35 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach, and undefeated unified three-belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be number two, if not number one, definitely top 5 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, in Earl the True Spence Jr. Earl Spence Jr. has a record of 28 wins, no loss and no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'9" with a 72-inch arm reach. They make for the biggest fight in boxing currently as it stands, and is having a hard time getting over the hump. With that said, Errol Spence Jr. is with the premier boxing champion, founder, and advisor Al Heyman, and it looks like Terence Crawford could possibly be signing with Oscar De La Hoya, retired, legendary, iconic Hall of Fame superstar boxer, 6th division world champion, Olympic gold medalist Oscar the Golden Boy De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, and co-promoter Bernard Hopkins, right? And Bernard Hopkins, in reference to this big fight and possibly signing Terence Crawford, he states that he's signing, or he's with, by far, the best welterweight in the world, the best fighter in the world, and the best fighter in his division, by far, is what Bernard Hopkins stated. Obviously, that's a dig, okay? That's clearly a dig at Errol Spence Jr. And Oscar De La Hoya, he stated that they could look to make a fight with Alexis Roca for Terence Crawford's next fight, okay? And then a fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr. in his second fight, and then a fight with Errol Spence Jr. in the third fight. So they're looking to do a 3-fight deal with Terence Crawford. Okay, Alexis Roca, he just had a victory last night. Okay, 7th round knockout victory over George Ashe. Alexis Roca is 22 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 14 wins by way of knockout. 25 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. He is number 3 in the WBO welterweight ranking system. So he's number 3 for Terence Crawford's WBO title. Okay, so with that said, they're looking to Alexis Roca's with Golden Boy Promotions. Easy fight to be made, right? So number 1 is another Golden Boy Promotions fighter for Terence Crawford's WBO title, and that's undefeated welterweight superstar Mexican boxer, title contender Virgil Ortiz Jr., who is 19 wins, no loss and no draw, 19 wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. Okay, but it looks like Virgil Ortiz Jr., who's number 1 in the WBO rankings, okay, and Keith Thurman, former unified welterweight world champion who held the WBC, WBA titles, superstar boxer, is number 2, but they both have obligations coming up, okay? Keith Thurman looks like he's en route to possibly facing Errol Spence in May, okay, and then you have Virgil Ortiz, who's going to face off against the WBA regular champion in Amanda Stanionis. Okay, Amanda Stanionis is 14 wins, no loss, no draw, 9 wins by way of knockout, 28 years of age, 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach. So that looks like Virgil Ortiz and Stanionis, they're going to be fighting in a rescheduled match because they were scheduled to face each other, but that fell through due to an injury that Stanionis suffered. Okay, so with that said, it looks like that fight is going to be rescheduled. and Virgil Ortiz Jr., he's going to face off against Amanda Stanionis for the WBA regular title, and it's been rescheduled for April 29th. So we could see Amanda Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz April 29th. Okay, and so with that said, that leaves Alexis Roca, which I don't understand because if you look at it from this standpoint, okay, why would Virgil Ortiz fight Amanda Stanionis for a secondary belt for the WBA regular title belt, opposed to fighting Terence Crawford for the WBO belt? They're just trying to stretch it out. Okay, so Terence Crawford, Alexis Roca, they will be on deck, seeing as though Keith Thurman is en route to fighting Errol Spence. He's number 2. And number 1 is Virgil Ortiz, and he's en route to fight Stanionis. So number 3 is Alexis Roca, and that looks like the fight and the route that they're going to look to go. But Bernard Hopkins, he states that Terence Crawford is by far the best welterweight in the world, okay, in his division. Obviously, again, that's a dig at Errol Spence. Bernard Hopkins, has never been shy in letting the world know he picks, Errol Spence to lose that fight against Terence Bud Crawford, okay? And I have to disagree with Bernard Hopkins. And Bernard Hopkins knows this, okay? He knows this. So this is what he said. He said, quote, "It's good to see the best fighter by far in his division," right? Now let's make history. So he said by far in his division. We know Errol Spence is in that division. I have to disagree with Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins knows it's not by far. Even if Bernard Hopkins favors Terence Crawford to win the fight, he knows that it's not by far that Terence Crawford is the best in the division. If you feel like Terence Crawford is the best welterweight in the world, I have no problem with that. If you feel like Errol Spence is the best welterweight in the world, I have no problem with that either. But to say he's by far the best welterweight in the world, that waters down. And to me, that's irresponsible. Okay, because it waters down the fight itself. If Terence Crawford is by far the best welterweight in his division, then it waters down the fight. It means that why do we need to see this fight? Because he's not fighting anybody close to his level. Okay, so it just simply wouldn't be a mega fight. It just simply wouldn't be a big fight. And I think that, it's irresponsible on the part of Bernard Hopkins to say such a thing. Because again, like I said, it waters down the fight. Okay, it takes away from the fight. It minimizes the fight, the magnitude of the fight. It tells the world that, the casual fans, it tells the casual fans in the world that, Errol Spence is not on Terence Crawford's level. Right? And so with that said, again, that's irresponsible by Bernard Hopkins. We should always say, and look to big up the sport, not to minimize the sport, not to minimize the fighters. Okay, we want the casual boxing fans that Bernard Hopkins have their ear. We want them to understand that this is a mega massive fight, and both these fighters are on the same level. Okay, it uplifts the sport. Okay, it uplifts the sport, and again, it's irresponsible, right? Because again, like I said, if you feel like Terence Crawford is the best welterweight in the world, I have no problem with that. If you feel like Errol Spence is the best welterweight in the world, I have no problem with that. But we can't minimize one another, okay, to big up the other fighter, because it waters down the fight and it waters down the sport. If you have in any other sport, if you have Kevin Durant playing LeBron James and you say, well, LeBron James is by far the best small forward or wing player in the NBA, by far, well, then it waters down the matchup, right? If you say in football, Joe Burrow is by far a better player than Patrick Mahomes, well, it waters down their matchup. So saying it's by far Terence Crawford is better than Errol Spence, it waters down the matchup and it waters down the sport. So I completely disagree with Bernard Hopkins, and I can't say this enough. It's irresponsible to the sport that birthed Bernard Hopkins, okay? Now, obviously, he's a man outside of the sport, but for the sport itself, Bernard Hopkins is known for the sport of boxing. This sport birthed Bernard Hopkins, the executioner, and it's irresponsible. So I can't wait to see how this fight plays out. I don't know how negotiations will play out, but we got to see and just keep our fingers crossed. So hopefully it comes to fruition. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV. Peace.